Good morning, students. Class 8. How are you all? Hope you are fine and safe. Yes, take good care of yourselves. Today I am back with history lesson. Chapter 6th, Colonialism and the City. The story of an imperial capital. As we all know, Britishers were imperial power. When we say that imperial power, it suggests that we were one of their colonies actually. And under the policy of imperialism, they colonized us. Us means Indians or India. And the bare need was to take over the control of the country. So now, after the independence, struggle for independence, in fact, Britishers were looking out what has to be done in India, and we were still under colonial rule. Western world modern cities emerged with industrialization. In Britain, industrial cities grew rapidly in 19th and 20th centuries as more and more people sought jobs, housing and other facilities in these places. Bombay, Calcutta and Madras rose in importance as presidency cities. They became centers of British power in different regions of India. Old trading centers and ports could not survive. Similarly, earlier centers of regional power collapsed when local rulers were defeated by the British and the new centers of administration emerged. Now, Bombay, Calcutta and Madras were the three presidency cities which were declared by the Britishers. They became when they became the centers of power, it was pre-evident that many towns manufacturing specialized goods declined due to the drop in demand for what they produced. Now, deurbanization. Cities such as Machilipatnam, which is also known as Masulipatnam, Surat and Seringapatam were deurbanized during the 19th century. Only 11% of Indians were living in cities by the early 20th centuries. And in fact, the historic imperial city of Delhi became a dusty provincial town in the 19th century. Before it was rebuilt as the capital of British India, that was only after 1911. The most splendid capital of all was built by Shah Jahan. Shahjahanabad was begun in 1639 and consisted of a fort palace complex and the city adjoining to it, Red Fort and Lal Killa, made of red sandstone, contained the palace complex. To its west lay the walled city with 14 gates. Main streets were broad enough and canal ran down the Chandni Chowk. In fact, when we look into it, we find that densely populated areas like several dozen bazaars and Jama Masjid were among the largest and grandest mosques in India. And as we all know, there was no place higher than this mosque within the city then. Now here we have the clippings of Shahjahanabad. Evolution of Shahjahanabad. Delhi during the rule of Shah Jahan was an important center of Sufi culture. It had several dargahs, khanqahs, and eidgahs, open squares, winding lanes, quiet cul-de-sacs, and water channels were the pride of Delhi's residents. Now, let me define this for you. Dargah. Dargah is a place, the tomb of a Sufi saint. Then Khanka, a Sufi lodge, often used as a rest house for travelers and a place where people come to discuss spiritual matters, get the blessings of saints, and hear Sufi music. And similarly, Eidgah, as the word itself defines, an open prayer place of Muslims, primarily meant for Eid prayers. And cul-de-sacs, quiet cul-de-sacs. Cul-de-sacs, streets with dead end, which furthermore they may not be moving ahead. They are somewhat like an album of a painter. Now, here the clipping Old Delhi and Chandni Chowk. How congested these areas where people are rubbing each other's shoulders while walking. Lot of hue and cries there. Delhi before New Delhi. This was no ideal city as its delights were enjoyed only by some. There were sharp division between rich and poor. Haveli or mansions were interspersed with the far more numerous mud houses of the poor. Celebrations and processions often led to serious conflicts. Now, the division between these two, that is rich and poor, was being intentionally done. New Delhi, making of a capital. This was a cover page. Now, British gains control of Delhi after defeating the Marathas in 1803. Mughal emperor was allowed to live in the palace complex in the Red Fort, as the capital of British India was Calcutta. It was only after 1911 when Delhi became the capital of British India. In Madras, Bombay, or Calcutta, the living spaces of Indians and the British were sharply separate. Indians lived in the black areas, while the British lived in the well laid out white areas. They lived along the wealthier Indians in the walled city. Actually, the British learned to enjoy Persian culture and poetry and participated in local festivals. Even the establishment of the Delhi College in, say, around 1792 led to a great intellectual flowering in the sciences as well as humanities, largely in Urdu language, wherein many historians refer to this period from say 1830 to 1857 as a period of Delhi Renaissance. The British wanted Delhi to forget its Mughal past. The area around the fort was completely cleared of gardens, pavilions, and mosques. Mosques were either destroyed or put to another use. British wanted to clear ground for security reasons, and 1/3 of the city was demolished. This we have seen that when the British regained the city, they embarked on campaign of revenge and plunder. It was a very major breakthrough, we can say, and Even the famous poet Ghalib witnessed the events at the time, and he described in his some of the poetries and writings, of course. Shahjahanabad, glimpse of Shahjahanabad, the walled city. The British wanted Delhi to forget its Mughal past, as we all know, and the area around the fort was completely cleared. So, what was the reason? They gave it as security reasons, of course. The British began living in the sprawling civil lines area, and in 1870s, the western walls of Shahjahanabad were broken to establish the railway and to allow the city to expand beyond the walls. The Delhi College was turned into a school and shut down in 1877. We have examples of the earlier structures wherein, for instance, if we talk about Zinat al Masjid, it was converted into a bakery. No worship was allowed in Jama Masjid for around 5 years, and 1/3 of the city was actually demolished and its canals were filled up. So, now planning a new capital. After the revolt of 1857, many spectacular events were held here. In 1877, Viceroy Lytton organized a darbar to acknowledge Queen Victoria as the Empress of India. And Calcutta was still the capital of British India, but the Grand Darbar was being held in Delhi. During the revolt, the British had realized that the Mughal emperor was still important to the people and they saw him as leader. It was therefore important to celebrate British power with pomp and show. In the city, the Mughal emperors had earlier ruled, and the place which had turned into a rebel stronghold in 1857. And Delhi Darbar was held in Delhi to celebrate the occasion when in 1911 King George V was crowned in England. The decision to shift the capital of India from Calcutta to Delhi was announced at this Darbar. New Delhi was constructed as a 10 square mile city on Raisina Hills. We are getting closer to making of New Delhi. Now here, the pictures of the architects, various architects, amongst which we have two of our architects who had actually planned and designed Lutyens Delhi. That were Edward Lutyens and Herbert Baker. The government complex in New Delhi consisted of a 2-mile avenue, and that was Kingsway. Now, more or less, we call it as Rajpath. That led to Viceroy's Palace, with the Secretariat buildings on either sides of the avenue. Two architects, Edward Lutyens and Herbert Baker, called on a design New Delhi and its buildings. The government complex in New Delhi consisted of a 2-mile avenue. Again, which I just mentioned. The idea was that led to Viceroy's Palace with secretarial buildings on either sides of the avenue. The features of these government buildings were borrowed from different periods of India's imperial history. But overall look was classical, Greece. For example, if we take into account the central dome of the Viceroy's Palace was copied from the Buddhist stupa at Sanchi, and the red sandstone and carved screens or jalis were borrowed from Mughal architecture. The new buildings had to assert British importance. That is why the architect made sure that Viceroy's Palace was higher than Shah Jahan's Jama Masjid. New Delhi took nearly 20 years to build. In Delhi, there were to be broad, straight streets lined with sprawling mansions set in the middle of large compounds. The new city had to be clean and healthy space. It had to have a better water supply, sewage disposal, and drainage facilities than the old city. It had to be green with trees and parks, ensuring fresh air and adequate supply of oxygen. This was the prerequisite, and that was what they were looking forward to. In fact, the architects wanted New Delhi to represent a sense of law and order, in contrast to that of Old Delhi, lot of chaos. And they intended to have clean and healthy space. Life in the time of partition. Now we are heading towards the end of the chapter. The partition of India in 1947 led to a massive transfer of populations on both sides of a new border. Thousands of people in Delhi were killed and their homes looted and burned. Refugees roamed the streets of Shahjahanabad searching for empty homes to occupy. Delhi became a city of refugees. The occupations of the refugees were quite different from those of the people they replaced. Partition changed their lives and their occupations. Of course, their skills. They had to take up new jobs as hawkers, vendors, carpenters, and ironsmiths. Many, however, prospered in their new business. Now, in fact, we found that Delhi became a city of refugees. It all began with the days after Indian independence and partition. Fierce rioting began. Thousands of people in Delhi were killed and their homes looted and burned. Refugees roamed the streets of Shahjahanabad searching for empty homes to occupy. And at times they forced Muslims to leave or sell their properties. Over two-thirds of Delhi Muslims migrated. 44,000 homes were abandoned. Terrorized Muslims lived in makeshift camps till they could leave for Pakistan. Delhi was in a very bad shape. Most of these migrants were from Punjab. They stayed in camps, schools, military barracks, and gardens, hoping to build new homes. Few of them got the opportunity to occupy residences that had been vacated. Others were putting in refugee colonies, new colonies such as Lajpat Nagar, Tilak Nagar came up at this time. Shops and stalls were set up to cater to the demands of the migrants. Schools and colleges were also opened. To put it together, partition actually changed their lives. The skills and occupations of the refugees, as we read just now, many of the Muslims who went to Pakistan were artisans, petty traders, and laborers. And the new migrants coming to Delhi were rural landlords, lawyers, teachers, traders, and small shopkeepers. So there was less possibility of job for them. At the end of 19th century, Shahjahani drains were closed and new system of open surface drain was introduced. The excellent system of water supply and drainage was neglected. System of wells also broke down, and channels to remove household waste was damaged. The Delhi Municipal Committee was unwilling to spend money on a good drainage system. This also came into notice that there were a lot of changes on this end, wherein they were trying to provide good living conditions. Now, decline of Havelis. The Mughal aristocracy in 17th and 18th centuries lived in grand mansions called Havelis. Many of the Mughal amirs were unable to maintain these large establishments under conditions of British rule. Some Havelis were taken over by the upcoming mercantile class, but many fell into decay and disuse. Havelis therefore began to be subdivided and sold. This was the virtual condition. A Haveli housed many families, and on entering the Haveli through a beautiful gateway, there was an open courtyard surrounded by public rooms meant for visitors and business, exclusively for males. And the inner courtyard and outer courtyard, you understand? Yes, inner courtyard with its pavilions and rooms was meant for women of the household. And most of our ancestral houses, we can see there are inner courtyards. Rooms in the Havelis had multiple uses and were very little by way of furniture. The poor condition in the walled city, however, did not stop it from expanding. In 1888, an extension scheme called the Lahore Extension Scheme was planned by Robert Clark for the walled city residents. The idea was to draw residents away from the old city to a new type of market square, around which shops would be built. The Delhi Improvement Trust was set up in 1936 and it built areas like Daryaganj South for wealthy Indians. Within the houses, the space was divided according to new rules of privacy. Houses were grouped around the park. So the colonial bungalow was quite different from the Haveli. We have already seen. It was large single storage structure with a pitched roof, separate living area, dining area, and so on. And now municipality had to plan as per the census of 1931. It was revealed that the walled city area was horribly crowded with as many as 90 persons per acre, while New Delhi had only about 3 persons per acre. And that is why the idea was to draw residents away from the old city to a new type of market. This was the whole idea. Streets in this redevelopment strictly followed the grid pattern and were of identical width and size and character. Land was divided into regular areas for the construction of neighborhoods. Even the Clarkganj, as the development was called, remained incomplete and did not help to decongest the old city. Even in 1912, water supply and drainage in these new localities was very poor. And finally, it was looked into that the Delhi Improvement Trust was set up. Yes, as we have seen in 1888, Lahore Gate Extension Scheme, Lahore Gate Improvement Scheme actually, and this was planned by Robert Clark. This was very successful actually. So with this, we found that there was complete makeover of Delhi with sprawling lawns and boulevards and trees planted on both sides, and lot of space was there. Quite different from that of old Delhi, wherein we had lot of congested areas, lot of chaos, and highly populated. So with this, we come to the end of this chapter, and now it's time for assignment. In this assignment, I've given you fill in the blanks. 10 of them are there. The first structure to successfully use the dome was called the dash. B. The British saw overcrowded spaces as dash. The two architects who designed New Delhi and Shahjahanabad were dash and dash. In 1888, an extension scheme called the dash was devised. E. The process by which more and more people begin to reside in towns and cities dash. For administrative purposes, colonial India was divided into 3 presidencies, which were dash, dash, and dash. An open prayer place for Muslims primarily meant for Eid prayers. What is it known as? Dash. Street with a dead end is known as. The tomb of a Sufi saint is known as. Dash. Refugee is a person who. Dash. Now these last few I have already discussed, and rest of the fill in the blanks have already appeared in your module. So it's now a big deal. You'll be able to do it. Just use your brains, presence of mind, go through the module properly, and you'll be definitely able to get a call. So complete it within the time frame, and the time frame suggested is 1 week, because the next week again you have another assignment. So get going with it and enjoy doing it. Take your own pretty good time. Write in a beautiful handwriting. And that's all for now. Stay happy, stay safe. Bye bye.